Today we're talking about capturing stunning photographs in flat and boring landscapes. Not pancake flat, but without anything dramatic in the background, like epic mountains. You know, those open fields or heathland with just a few trees, small rolling hills, ordinary lakes, or endless sand beaches without anything dramatic. The kind that most of us have access to, that people say are just, well, boring to photograph. But how do you actually find subjects and create images that are stunning and challenge that idea? Let's take a look. Welcome to Adorama TV. My name is Bredahl Dam and I'm a nature photographer. A lot of photographers believe that without those features, there's nothing interesting to point your camera at, or at least that was what I thought when I started out in landscape photography. I do admit that this is one of the hardest type of landscapes to shoot well. But what if I told you there's a proven set of techniques that landscape photographers use to make that seemingly ordinary flat and boring landscape look absolutely breathtaking? When you capture an image, you take a three-dimensional scene and present it on a two-dimensional medium like a photo print or a screen. You need an approach that reveals the depth of the scene and thereby reveal the beauty you perceive. And the first point I'm going to share isn't the absolute best one, but it's the one that will start shifting how you see things, setting you up for even more impactful techniques down the line. Okay, the first key strategy is to actively look for objects and use them as foreground elements. Now, this might seem counterintuitive in a vast open landscape. Now, anything interesting can work, like beautiful flowers, interesting patterns in rocks or boulders. And if you're lucky to have some larger man-made objects, you can include them as a dominating element in your composition. So by all means, include them if you have them. Instead of just pointing your camera at the horizon, explore the ground around you and include it in your compositions. This is particularly powerful if the sky isn't that dramatic. Using elements as foreground is a classic wide-angle technique, but applying it in flat landscapes helps you give scale and interest, where the middle or background might lack some distinct features. Using foreground elements does two critical things. First, it adds immediate interest and context in the part of the frame that's closest to the viewer. Second, it creates depth and leads the viewer's eye into the larger scene, overcoming the flatness. This simple act immediately makes the scene less flat and boring. Now, using a foreground is great, but it can still make the composition look a bit disconnected. So what you want to do is to look for something that can lead the eye further into the image. On a coast like this, you have a natural leading line that takes the eye straight towards the horizon. The next thing you can do is to find and emphasize the subtle layers that are present in even relatively flat landscape. If you don't have all these elements, like a foreground element or great leading lines that takes the viewer's eyes deeper into the image, you can also try to emphasize the landscape's natural lines of a few rolling small hills. Flat areas like heathlands often have gentle rolls of fences or lines of trees or distant hills that aren't obvious when you use a wide-angle lens. This is where a telephoto lens becomes incredibly powerful. Instead of going wide, try using a standard or telephoto zoom lens. Walk further away from your chosen point of interest and then zoom in. By increasing the distance to your subject while zooming, you create an effect of perspective compression. This visually compresses those subtle layers together, making them appear more prominent and stacked. This also helps fill the frame and make the distant objects appear larger, relative close to one another, adding a sense of scale that a wide-angle lens can sometimes diminish in flat scenes. Exploring the scene from different distances and heights is key to finding the best angle for this. Perspective compression with a telephoto lens is crucial in flat landscapes because it draws the layers in the landscape closer to each other, making distant features feel more significant. It's a powerful way to show the landscape in a way that the naked eye might not immediately perceive it, beating the viewer's expectation of a typical flat landscape photo. A 10 to 20 meter rolling hill or dune in the distance suddenly seems bigger. So we've looked at using small details up close and compressing layers from far away, but sometimes the landscape itself provides a perfect natural subject that just needs to be found and framed correctly. Anything standing by itself immediately draws attention. This could be a lone tree in an open field or moorland. These lone subjects are common in large open areas. The challenge is the composition. Get close, move far away, and experiment with various camera heights, because this can really make a difference. How does the ground lead to it? Finding the most compelling composition requires this physical exploration, and you can use the previous tips to do that. A lone subject provides an immediate focal point. It gives the viewer's eye a place to rest and a narrative anchor. Absolutely stunning. Lone subjects are also excellent for embracing a minimalist approach with clear frames and utilizing negative space, which often works beautiful in flat landscapes to create a sense of calm and impact. There's a little bit of breeze this morning, so there's not really any reflection or possible for reflections right now at least, but I think this morning just has to be about separating all the trees from each other so you can see them as layers in the distance. So we've covered foregrounds, layers, lines and lone subjects, but sometimes the real magic isn't the ground at all, it's happening right above your head. That is also why one of the key components in capturing amazing shots in undramatic landscapes is to make the most of the sky and utilize the right weather conditions. However, if it's just a plain blue sky, it's not very powerful, is it? Sometimes all we need is to have the right timing. The sky offers immense dramatic possibility. Learning to follow the weather forecast and plan your next session is crucial for making the most of the locations you have. Just knowing when fog is expected or a dramatic storm is rolling in allows you to be in the right place at the right time. In flat and boring landscapes, a compelling sky or dramatic sky can single-handedly transform ordinary scenes into extraordinary ones. It provides drama, color, texture and mood that the ground might lack. Utilizing these weather conditions allow you to add specific elements and unpredictability, making your photos far more interesting than a plain blue sky would. So I definitely recommend that you try to visit the beautiful locations you already know when there's a beautiful sunset or when fog is coming in or storm is approaching. So we broke down how to see boring landscapes differently and apply specific techniques using foregrounds, perspective, compression with telephoto lenses, finding lone subjects and leveraging dramatic skies and weather. We started with the common idea that these places are boring, but by changing our perspective, you can see that reality definitely beats those initial expectations. Remember, there's no boring landscapes, only not knowing how to look and what techniques to apply. If you found these techniques helpful for seeing boring landscapes in a new light, please hit the like button and remember to subscribe to Adorama TV for thousands of inspiring videos. Get out there, explore your local areas and start capturing some breathtaking images. Thank you so much for watching.